Hello and welcome back to God Ahead. Bravo, that's all I can say. You have got to this point where you have answered your question. You started QWERTY by being very clear about what your question was. What exactly did you want to achieve? What did you not have to think about? What were the qualifiers, the things that you had to consider to make sure that you had as full and complete an answer as you could? You went forward into wonder. You thought creatively, inventively. You brought your passion into all those ideas that you had. You used more to think, where could you find ideas from memory, from observation, from research, from inquiry, and you had heaps of ideas, piles of ideas. You took them forward into explore. You looked at the features of all those ideas and thought, what can I do with them? You assessed them to see whether or not you should put them together with other ideas to make a new idea. You looked to see whether you could enhance some of the ideas to make them more interesting, more novel, different in some way, or remove a problem. And some ideas were good enough that they just went straight into solution. You selected them straight away. So by the end of Explore, you had a whole series, hopefully, of solutions, possible solutions. You took them forward into Rank, and you used forget-me-nots like Give It a Whirl and Pick to decide which of those solutions was going to give you the best possible answer, depending on what your own personal criteria were. You then took that best solution into Target. You looked at all the things that you would need to do to bring those ideas to life, to have them singing and dancing. And by that, you would have to look at all the tasks you had to do, make sure that the timescales were appropriate, that you scheduled them properly, that you had all the materials that you needed, and more importantly, that you tracked your progress, you saw what tasks were done, what you still needed to do, so that you could complete everything on time. And so here we are at YaY. Well done. You have that answer there. Is that enough? Well, that's what we are going to find out. Because today, what we're going to look at is YaY. And that's where we need to ask, how did you get on? Be honest. Be brutally honest. How did it work? Now, what you might find is that there are things that could be improved upon if you still have time. This is back to the bit about, do you want to have the shiny curtains in the cafe, or do you want velvet hand-sewn curtains in the cafe? That would be nice to have. We didn't have time for it. If there's still time now, we could go back and put the better curtains in. If we don't have time, we can remember what worked for next time. And more importantly, what didn't work, so we don't waste our time using techniques that don't work. QWERTY is something that the more you practice, the better you will get. And it's because each stage that you do builds on the one before. And it's a cycle you're going through, and you're always getting better at what you're doing because you're learning. That's the key. You are learning about what you're doing and how you're doing it, and getting the best from you, from what's in here. You're bringing that out and you're remembering it so that you can take it forward and improve for the future. So in order to do that, you have to have some kind of evaluation process. And you should always do that for any of your tasks, even little ones. Just take some time to go back and look at it. So this is kind of QWERTY in reverse, if you like, because what you do is you look at the target that you had from that first solution that you put into play. And you can ask yourself the question, did it work? Yes, great, thumbs up. Well, we use a forget-me-not there called wrap and remember, which basically means we remember what we did, how we did it, and what lessons we learned from that. So if we have to do something similar in the future, we can start further down the line because we don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. We remember what went round. If, on the other hand, it was more of a maybe not, or in fact, even a no, it didn't work at all, then you can go back to the various stages to discover at which point things started going wrong. It might be that it was a complete and utter failure, and there was something you hadn't allowed for, so maybe you should simply go back to your second choice, go back to rank and pick your second solution. Put that into play and see if that would work better for you. Equally, you could maybe go back to the explore stage or the wonder stage, like what we did when we were looking at our pillars. We knew it wasn't going to work because the floor was tilting downwards. We needed something to hold it up, and the pillars did the job. So we had used YaY earlier in the process. We didn't wait right until the end. We evaluated whether something was working and thought, right, okay, what do we do? Do we go for plan A? Do we go for plan B? Well, we liked plan A. Everything about plan A was smashing, but the floor was tilting. So we had to look for a solution. We did that by going back to wonder and explore, and it worked. So depending on where you are in the process, what it is that didn't work depends on whether you go back to rank, to explore, to wonder, or in fact even to your question. Did you set the parameters of your question clearly enough? The perimeter of the question that you set, should you be moving the guide ropes a little bit so that you get a better area in which to focus your thoughts? So how do we do YaY? Well, we came across, if you remember, give it a whirl earlier on in rank. We've got another one, different colour. And basically it's just give it a whirl, but we're looking backwards. Instead of assessing what we're doing now, we're just looking backwards. So if I pick one, what's that? Do I like... Oh, it should say, did I like it? So, did I like it? And the answer was yes. The cafe was absolutely smashing. It was exactly what we wanted. Yes, there were things that we might have changed if we had time, like the curtains. But on the whole, we liked it. What about that one? Was it right? Well, this was back to the question of, should we use existing furniture from our doll's house, or should we make our own? So it was very much right that she make her own furniture and not go for something that was commercially produced. And the last one, of course, was, did it work? Well, we had a problem at various stages. And we did, so this was our original chair, okay? And, I don't know if you can quite see that, but the first thing it does, okay, it was toothpicks and cardboard, and the first thing it did is fall over. Right? It wasn't very successful. So we came up with another design, which was using card, and instead of 4 individual feet, we had kind of solid feet, and that worked very well indeed. So that was fine. Now the only problem, of course, was it was kind of silver and gold. She quite liked that. But, of course, what we could do is we could enhance that idea. We could take the design that worked and we could bring Grandpa Love back into the equation, and we could have all our furniture painted so that it looked like marble. So we could even tuck our chairs under the table when they weren't being used. So that was us, table and chair, both working because they were painted. we had other things which we had before, which, for instance, we looked at the till before, which was just supposed to be a little sort of almost triangular prism like that. She didn't like that, so we made the gold one, which had the figures at the top that you could see, and on that side it's even got the the buttons on the till. So that's where we can review what we did, what worked, what didn't work. One thing we learned was make prototypes early on. Try different styles, see what works best. Don't decide that you're going to make a whole series of furniture using one design that might fail. So think about the different ways that you have of doing things before you get everything made. So that was something that we would learn and take forward, is look at the different ways that you have of creating things. Make sure that you do only one of each until you see which one works best, and then you can make the rest of them. Then you can bring them out in the different colours, or the different marble in our case. Another way is to look at what we call ref, where you review, you evaluate, you feedback. And that's when you can look at the different parts of your design or your solution in detail. So we could just as easily have looked at, if I can find the chair, we could easily have looked at the chair in detail and say, well, what works? Well, this design of the legs works very well. The back's not very straight. We can sort that. But we review the item, we evaluate it, and we feed back into what we're doing next, or what we would do if we had to do something similar in the future. It could be, do you draw the marble, or do you paint the marble? Or do you print it off? Find a picture of marble and print it off. These are all things that you could have reviewed. We thought about how the pillar would go to the ceiling, making it look a little bit more like a sort of classical pillar with the kind of the bit at the top. But more importantly, it was much firmer than just the tube was. So again, we looked at the detail of the design, and we looked at what would make it work better. We did that as we went along, but you could equally do it at the end of the project and say, well, you know what, I could go back and I could change that bit, because the pillars came in and out. So if it wasn't as solid as it could have been, you could make it more solid by adding that little plinth at either side. So you look at your plans, what you did, the solution that you came up with, and say, is it the best it could be? And you can use Gave It a Whirl, and you can use Ref, and you do it for both the product, the final result, what the cafe actually looked like, but also for the process. How did you do it? What worked well for you? Did you find that more was a particularly useful forget-me-not? Would you use that again? We used more on more than one occasion, if you'll excuse the repetition of the word more, but we also used it when we had a problem. We used more to fix the problem. So that was a way that worked for us. We would use that again. Use it when we first come across wonder, when we're looking for ideas, but if we're trying to enhance an idea, we could use more to look for elements to enhance the idea that we have. So that's us. We've done QWERTY. We had the question, we had the wonder, we had explore, rank, target, and we finished today with YaY. YaY is very important. It's part of the process because it's helping you learn. It's helping your future. Because if you can learn from what you've done today and remember what you did, what worked or what didn't work. It will make your life so much easier going forward, and that is an important step. We'll carry on making these clips. We'll look at some elements of QWERTY in more detail. We'll certainly be looking at the forget-me-nots in more detail. We'll probably do one just on the cafe where we can show you exactly what we came up with and show you how we used QWERTY to get the product that we did, and what was useful as we made that cafe. We'll also be looking at other techniques that Got Ahead have come up with to help you in your learning. Do let us know how you've got on with QWERTY. Let us know what projects you've used it for. You can do that in the comments down below. If you need help, you can get in touch with us through our website, which is www.gotahead.com. If you're asking for particular help or support with getting QWERTY up and running, we can help you there. We hope you will find QWERTY every bit as useful as we do. See you next time.